Okay. Okay, we're ready. Everybody ready?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Matt and Brendo's Wrestling Show. I'm Brendan Creasy,
I'm Matt Benson.
and we have a guest today, somebody
Yes,
that you met at Comic-Con.
yes, that's correct. Very special guest. Fans of the Thrilling Adventure Hour know him as Philip Fathom, Deep Sea Detective. Fans of Welcome to Night Vale will know him as Steve Carlsberg. And great comedy fans will know him by his real name, which is Hal Lublin.
Hello. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's
Thanks
great
for
to have
being
you.
on. You're our first official guest
Yeah,
the entire time we've done the show. So,
yeah. I want to talk about how you got on the show. So we met at Comic Con, and I gave you a card just asking you to be on any show, and your eyes lit up when you saw that there was a pro wrestling show.
Yes, absolutely true. I'm a huge pro wrestling fan. Have been since I was a kid.
When did you start watching? What was your era when you started watching?
Jeez, I was born in '77, so I
oh
started
wow, okay.
watching right around like WrestleMania 1. I remember going to I grew up in Philadelphia, and I went to the Spectrum to watch WrestleMania 3 in closed circuit.
Oh, nice.
Nice. So you're more. We have a similar because Benson's much later. Benson, like you started around the McMahon Helmsley era,
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Attitude Era, McGann Helmsley, that right in that.
whereas so we've been we're a few eras advanced, I guess you could say.
Yeah, we went through like the TL Hopper era and all of that fun stuff, all,
Yeah.
all the way through.
So like Hulkamania to the I don't know what you would call that era. The Vince McMahon almost went to jail forever, so were they didn't have a lot of they kind of tried to I don't know what they were doing. They're like, "Hey, we're not all beefed up muscly guys. Here's a guy dressed as a baseball player."
Yeah,
And
exactly. It was everybody had to have a job. So you had the
yeah.
wrestling plumber, you had the dumpster Drosy. I mean, and then Kane, the early appearance of
Oh
Kane
yeah.
as Isaac Yankem,
Yep.
DDS.
Yeah,
They
Jerry
had to be.
Lawler's evil dentist.
Yeah. So yeah, that was quite an era.
Yeah. Now, have you been watching on the regular this whole time?
I kind of I went on and off. I watched it really hardcore from like 2000 to maybe 2004 or 5. And then
Yeah.
I would watch WrestleMania every year with a group of friends. And then one of my really close friends got the WWE network and gave me his password, and then I bought it for
Nice.
myself and then sort of got caught up on everything, and now I watch it regularly. Probably
Oh,
since
nice.
WrestleMania.
See, this is what I was reading about this today, and I think this I've heard so many stories like that about the WWE Network. Maybe instead of just saying 9.99 all the time, they should have more like, hey, like I don't know, more testimonial type things like
What
that.
I don't know, not to plug other podcasts here, but I don't know if you guys listen to Jim Ross's podcast, The Ross
Yes.
Report. But he spends a lot of time. I mean, if you're out there and a wrestling fan, he opens every show spending about a half an hour talking about the state of the business, and he
Hmm.
always talks about how they should be promoting WWE Network more through testimonials, in particular from the talent. Like you never
Yeah,
hear them say what they're watching.
yeah, it's always cool to hear what they like in other I listen on other podcasts and at other events where they've asked wrestlers that question, and it's really cool to hear like, oh, Steve Regal like is way into listening watching this stuff, and this is what Stone Cold loves to watch, and then talking about it. And I feel like, yeah, they really, I don't know, they're not really marketing it correctly, and I'm really scared that it'll fail and then it'll be
Go away.
gone.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do?
Yeah, I agree. It's a fantastic product, and I was talking to somebody about it today. But I mean, for the size of the library that they control, I mean, they've
Oh yeah,
released like a sliver of it. They have so
it's nuts.
much.
Yeah.
It's like when you think about this, all the TV just from WWF. When you think about that, that's crazy. Then you go into WCW, and then all the other federations, like they haven't even touched like Bill Watts's deep like Mid South and like the like Smoky Mountain Wrestling and
Yeah.
some of that all that other stuff. The what was the AWA? They haven't had any AWA stuff, and there's gold, so much stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really hope it doesn't die before it gets to the point where it can really explore that back
Yeah.
catalog.
Well, I think the global launch, I mean, that's going to be a big deal, especially when it goes to the UK in October. But I was just reading about what they were hoping. They were hoping to have 1 million subscribers just in the US before they even went global, and they got to like 750, if that, 750,000. So that's why they pulled the trigger a little early on the global thing.
Huh.
But it's
Okay, how about this as a pitch for an angle? Some kind of thing where the WWE network is representative of Obamacare, because that was already there, but Obamacare made it. There's something there, I feel.
Yeah, exactly.
we need some kind of apology, and then
Yeah.
like a relaunch, and I don't know. I mean, the biggest thing that I hear constantly is like, "Where's Nitro? Where's all the Raws?" Like, I get why they. I mean, I was a little bummed out how they initially said, "Yeah, the day after Raw, you're gonna have Raw up," and that didn't come to pass. But that was because of they kind of jumped the gun there. It seems like they do that a lot, and they didn't.
How long is their deal with
actually-
Hulu? Because that's why, right?
Well, and so it's 30 days now. It was even worse, but they got it down to 30 days, and I think they renewed their deal with Hulu. So I don't know if that's ever happening. I don't know what they're doing. It doesn't make
Okay.
sense. But you would think that they would at least have all the old Raws, which they are slowly doing, very slowly. And right now we're in like the 94, 95 era, which is the era we were just talking about.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
like the early 1-2-3 Kid and Razor Ramon feud.
Yeah, Repo Man. Although I have to say the Macho Man Repo Man hat feud, when Repo Man stole Macho Man's hat, has been very entertaining to relive. It's still not quite, the stuff that I was hoping to have access to.
Yeah.
I
But
was watching. Go ahead.
but they're, supposedly they're going to start showing they're going to start having Nitro in the fall. That's what I keep hearing.
Makes sense.
I was watching one of those recently. I saw a young unknown jobber by the name of Matt Hardy show up.
Oh yeah, they show
That
up a
was another-
bunch. Both
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
They were
should we talk about?
jobbers for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Should we dive into SummerSlam?
Yeah, I mean, I went to SummerSlam.
Yeah, I was supposed to go. I had a ticket, and then my friend who was getting married and for whom I'm the best man decided to have his wedding shower that day. So I was not at the event, but I watched it on the WWE Network.
Stop right there. So I did. What is a wedding shower? I've heard of a bridal shower. Is that a thing?
I don't know. At this event, I was given a ring to take care of, which I also didn't know was a tradition, so I'm not the one to ask. I'm not up on these traditions.
I when I got married, my wife had a series of bridal showers, and she always wanted me to be there, which was totally cool. But
She had a series of them? She had more than one?
yeah, because she's from Florida and I'm from Philadelphia, so my mother wanted to throw her one, and then she had people throw her one, and then there was one here. All the different people who might attend the wedding sort of want to throw one. It's sort of like a open rules. But I can understand, like, this is a modern wedding, and we totally want to we're going to do this together, so we're going to make it a wedding shower.
Gotcha.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there was no bridal shower. This was
Okay,
what was
so
held
this is
instead.
kind of that whole. Okay, I don't know. You missed out, man.
Yeah, I did miss, and also I really wanted to go to the Welcome to Night Vale Thrilling Adventure Hour crossover where John Roderick performed on stage, but that was their engagement party. So
Oh, and that was incredible.
So what's
yeah,
next?
that's
What's next?
well, I'll tell you what's next is Matt Gorley is on the Dead Authors Pod on the day of their the rehearsal dinner.
Oh, this needs to stop.
That's
That's what. Okay. So that's what you were. I saw your tweet. You're like, or was that on your Facebook? You're like, the next thing is David Bowie's gonna announce his one-man concert in my house on the day of the wedding.
Yeah, I think that's where this is headed based on what has happened so
Yeah,
far.
pretty soon you're gonna get a call. You're like, hello, Matthew. I can only play one
Yeah.
day. I heard you're the biggest fan of my music, and also I really like wrestling, and I'd love to talk with you about it.
Yeah, just everything in one day.
But only that
That's
day.
funny.
Yeah, that's the only
Yeah.
day.
Only
I can
that
talk.
day, and never again. And when I'm never
Yeah.
going to talk to you. It's probably what's the next phone call you're getting. Well,
Yeah.
that's unfortunate because I didn't watch the post show. Did they catch the end of the show? We'll start with the end because that's what you
Do
should
you
do.
you watched on the WWE Network, presumably, Hal?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Yeah. Same here. Okay.
After the pay-per-view stopped, first Cena got booed like crazy, and I could tell they were doing some scripted stuff because he was like talking to all the doctors and hollering up, but he also legitimately looked like concussed, like very concussed.
Well,
And yeah,
one of those first two German suplexes he took, it looked like he landed on his head.
yeah,
And then,
there
and
was
then the
one that
few
was
after that,
brutal.
he was like the maybe it was like the second one, and then after that, like in watching it, it was like Brock Lesnar was definitely protecting him a lot more and making sure he dropped on the, like
Yeah,
just make sure that back and shoulder hits down, buddy.
Yeah.
so that was one of the most brutal things I've ever seen. That was just like, let's watch a man get just completely destroyed, and I gotta say I was amazed that they did it.
Yeah. A quick shout out, by the way. Thanks, Brendo, for telling me the ending, even though you knew I was not watching it live, because that's why I was not there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Which
thought
is
you were
something
watching
you
it.
did.
I waited. I thought I waited enough. I thought you were watching it just like on a delay.
Yeah. No, you didn't hear. We didn't hear any of the booing on the network feed, but as
Oh.
like Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar were like celebrating on the ramp, you could kind of hear a little nah 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 in the
Oh,
background.
dude. It was loud, and then they did they nod Cena out of the building, like did the hey hey goodbye, and that was crazy. It was so weird going a year before where we were also you and I were at SummerSlam, where every angry Daniel Bryan fan, which was most of the building, were yelling bullshit at the
Yeah.
end of the show. Much happier fans leaving, so that was good.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of kids crying.
You could actually hear on the network feed, and Matt, I bet you heard this too. There's like one kid who's probably ringside
Yeah.
who kept going, "Let's go Cena"
Yeah,
by
there's
himself.
one.
Nobody
Yeah.
was with him.
There's
Yeah.
always that kid, man.
Yeah,
It sounded like he was mic'd. Like he got through real clear.
it really did.
So, yeah, I was sitting up as absolutely high you could go, and my harsh lesson this year was sitting on an aisle seat seems cool because you can get out right away, but it also means that you have to stand up every 5 minutes because people have to go to the bathroom and get beer, and that gets really annoying really quickly. Sometimes I'm just like, I just didn't like. People would get up like in the middle of like exciting things happening. I'm like, what are you doing here? What are you doing? And then like, and that didn't make sense. And then we were sitting next to this guy, and it was actually pretty awesome. He was like right straight up like classic wrestling fan, root for every face, boo the heels, and he was going crazy during the Rusev match. Like I thought he was gonna start crying. And then like for Cena, he was like screaming at the top of his lungs. Like Benson, we talked last episode about how much I freaked out when Sting came out at Comic-Con. Like this was way more than that. Like a million times more. It was crazy. But it was kind of sometimes it makes me I'm like, "Oh man, I wish I loved anything as half as much as this guy loves John Cena right now." But it was fun. It's always fun going live, but we were even closer to the pyro side, or they moved. I don't know what they did. I thought we were in the same exact section. It was so loud, but luckily, like, they must be cutting the heck out of the budgets because there was, like, way less pyro this year. There's only, like, 3 wrestlers that had pyro. Remember when, like, all the wrestlers used to just have crazy nuts pyro? Like, that
that was my childhood. That was
Yeah.
My favorite pyro of all time was Fully Loaded 2000, which was the first time Kurt Angle ever had pyro to one of his entrances.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
And
yeah.
that whole angle was him. He just kept upsetting the Undertaker. So he was running from the Undertaker the whole time and afraid. So his pyro, it might not have even been, you know what? It wasn't fully loaded. It was like the Raw maybe a couple weeks before, and his pyro went off for the first time and like scared the hell out of him.
Yeah.
It was so like I was like, oh, he gets it. He way gets it.
Somebody actually put together some clips of Paul Heyman being scared by Brock Lesnar's pyro. Like just him jumping, like, and but yeah, because I don't think people, if you, it doesn't come across, it comes sort of across on TV, but it is so loud, like especially in like a smaller arena, like it is deafeningly loud, especially the opening pyro, like it's, oh my god.
Yeah, I don't understand how all older wrestlers are not just completely deaf by the time they retire.
Yeah,
It's
and,
so
and then
crazy.
and then I think about, and then I watch things like Goldberg's entrance and other guys where they're just standing in the pyro.
Yeah.
Like, how the fuck do you do that? I guess he's tough. I mean, that definitely proved that, but
Yeah,
a
when
lot
you
of
have
those
enough
guys
muscle
must not be able to
lock them.
hear.
Exactly.
Like Kane has to be deaf. Or wear secret earplugs. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does have a mask that could conceivably be hiding earbuds.
It has fake hair on it. Why not?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird that they just now openly acknowledge that it's fake hair, because he turns in the mask with the wig.
Well,
every
it
time he
wasn't
turns back into
always
corporate
fake
Kane.
hair.
Yeah.
I wonder how
Yeah.
long it's been fake hair. Probably at least the last 5 years or so. Well, he hasn't. I mean, I guess when he wore the mask again,
Yeah.
So it's just been since he wore the mask. So I wonder if like he's like, all right, I get to grow my hair back, and then he's like, oh no, it's not coming back, because he's been shaving his head or maybe that's why he started shaving his head. Who knows?
Yeah.
I always wonder if Angle, like, because Angle, that was he started going bald as part of a gimmick match, but then I wonder if that's the whole reason why they did the gimmick match, because Angle's like, hey guys, I'm gonna shave my head soon, we might as well make something out of it.
Yeah. Oh, and they had that great where he's wearing the headgear with the wig.
Yes.
I mean, just great. He's one of those guys where they keep saying, his contract is up, I guess, in September with TNA.
Yeah.
He really wants to go back to hear, what I've been reading. He wants to go back, but the WWE might not want him back. I would love to see him
I
have
think
one
there's
more
some
run.
major concerns about his health
Sure.
and his sobriety, which I think he's been good for, it seems like, recently, but I would love to see him come back. I would love to see him come back and feud with Brock. I'd love to see him, Daniel Bryan, Kurt Angle. Like, it's endless for me. Like, I would just be like, because he's an amazing face and he's an even better heel.
Yeah.
Kind of do anything.
Yeah. If they could build up Rusev enough,
Oh, that'd be
Oh,
that'd be the perfect feud.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, man, speaking of Rusev, they gave him the big SummerSlam win, which is crazy coming from a year ago. Benson and I, he wrestled at Access it was like right when he was making his NXT debut. Like, I don't even think he'd been on TV yet.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw him wrestle Mojo Rawley, and I'm like,
a couple
man,
times.
yeah. I'm like, I don't know if it's Mojo guy, but this Rusev guy's like got that big monster heel look. And then sure enough, a year later, he's on a huge SummerSlam match. Like, it's a pretty big leap there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of heel victories at SummerSlam this year.
Yeah, that's why I was getting worried. I'm like, oh no, Cena's gonna win. Like, because I'm like, they need. But I guess Reigns winning was the big victory of the night.
Yeah, Ray and Ziggler.
Dolph
Boy
Ziggler. Yeah. Which that was let's talk about that. I mean, I was impressed. I just was not expecting that to happen so fast, but I guess if it's going to happen, it would happen at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have them build a little bit more, but Ziggler's one of those guys that doesn't have bad matches, and then The Miz is actually I love the way they repackaged him, because he didn't.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't think his face run was particularly successful.
No.
Yeah.
And plus, like, there was that weird period where I think they were gonna turn him heel, but then they realized that he was in like a family Christmas movie, so they stopped it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like one week where he was a heel, and then they just immediately snapped back.
And I seriously think the writers forgot. They're like, oh wait,
Yeah.
supposed to be promoting this face. You can't have your heel promoting Christmas Bounty.
That was during SummerSlam last year, actually, because I rewatched last year's SummerSlam, and the cast of the Christmas Bounty got a nice spot shown in the audience.
Yeah, he was the host, wasn't he?
Yeah. Which I guess he did like 3 things, and that was it.
Which, in a way, was sort of unintentionally doing Hollywood Miz back then, because that's just where he was.
Yeah.
For sure. I love the him not taking any hits to his face. That's such a great character aspect.
Yeah, and then I saw on I think it was on Raw, SmackDown before SummerSlam. He was shaking people's hands, giving high fives, and then he's stepping up to the ring. He pulls out a little hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's what we were talking about that on the last show. Like the little things that he does is what makes that perfect. Like what you said about what was the thing, the line that he said?
Oh yeah, when his parents were in the crowd, and Michael Cole asked him, like, you made your parents pay for their own plane ticket out here, and then just totally straight, like perfectly straight, Miz says, yeah, how else are they gonna get here? That was really nice.
I actually got to work with him once.
Oh wow!
I did corporate stuff for Symantec for years. I still do it once in a while, and they would have me come out and do like live events. And so I worked with him. He was hilarious. He was very gracious, but also like all good gimmicks, it was basically like a version of himself turned up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He was wearing these bizarre shoes. I remember looking down and going, those are crazy shoes, man. He's like, yeah, they're Louboutins. Heard of them? But like, not for anybody else, but just a conversation between the two of us.
That's amazing.
And actually, that also working that day was Goldberg. So the 3 of us were together, and Goldberg was not on good terms with WWE at the time. So a picture from that made it around, and I apparently there was some sort of punishment that he received for that.
Oh wow!
He had no idea that Goldberg was going to be there, and Goldberg, oddly enough, is like the nicest human being on the planet.
Yeah, I met him once. I met him and Kevin Nash, and they were both really cool. And everybody I've heard says Goldberg's really nice.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart, for sure.
I think, he was at WrestleCon during WrestleMania, and he answered every question. He didn't dodge anything, because he was doing a fan Q&A, and then it just sounds like he doesn't want to waste that return. Like he knows that it's valuable, and he wants it to mean something if and when he ever does. So he's not like some of these guys that are just like begging to come back because he doesn't need to, I guess.
Yeah, no, he's a really very smart businessman.
Yeah, and thanks to that, we dodged a Goldberg Ryback match, which some people wanted. So thank you to him for that.
That's
How
right.
weird was that on Raw? Like that,
Yeah.
Because it was in Vegas, and I guess Ryback is from Vegas. He was probably the most over he's ever been.
Yeah.
Like the crowd was going crazy for Ryback. There were all kinds of Ryback chants.
There was a "Feed Me More" chant. I thought I was losing my mind. I didn't realize they were in Vegas and he was from Vegas.
Hometown crowds.
He works really hard though. Like he's one of those guys. Like he doesn't. You can sort of tell, or maybe you can't tell, but it seems like sometimes guys are kind of phoning it in because they're maybe not happy with where they are on the card, or they're just for whatever reason. But he seems to just sort of whatever he can do, he'll go out there and do it and work super hard wherever you put him on the card.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, but we were talking last week about Randy Orton too. I think Randy Orton is a guy who really worked hard to do what he can, but there's just not a lot there. And I think that's clear when you watch him wrestle.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of stale right now. It's weird. I think putting the belt on Brock Lesnar was a great idea.
Yeah.
And the way they did it was fantastic. But there's nobody who's going to challenge him right now. There's really nobody to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. I could see this. I
I
could see
mean,
them writing this for quite some time.
dream
Probably.
scenario
I mean,
is when Daniel Bryan comes back. That's who goes after him.
yeah, but when you really think about it, can Daniel Bryan stand up to Brock Lesnar? I mean, if we're really,
I mean, it's a dream scenario. This is me dreaming right now.
I mean, I'm sure if I'm sure that's gonna happen if and when Daniel Bryan gets better, but I don't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they've built up Brock Lesnar so much now. Like he beat the streak, he
Yeah.
destroyed. Like he's like at least because we saw. I mean, this is it. Also, is crazy that um, I've been to 2 SummerSlams and both times I saw John Cena get beat clean since that rarely happens. And but there was night and day between the Daniel Bryan match and this match,
Yeah.
and so for that. So I mean, yeah, I don't know who's gonna come in or who would stand up to Brock. I guess or maybe they're still trying to figure that out because
Yeah.
at this point, how's Rollins gonna cash in? What's going on with that? Like, I don't see Rollins attempting to cash in.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. Like the best thing would be to have him and Ambrose feuding over the belt. I mean, not that they need it because
Yeah.
their matches are incredible with just the stakes of they hate one another.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But it feels like that's got to happen at some point. They've got to
Yeah.
Rollins has to cash in and get the title. He can't do it with Brock.
Well,
You know.
I think they're definitely doing something with Reigns, like based off of his reaction and the way they're building him. I think maybe they're gonna do a slow, like they'll build him up for a while, and then maybe Rollins will cash in on Reigns.
That'd be interesting.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Because Reigns was getting like top guy from the crowd. Like people love Roman Reigns.
Yeah. Ever
Um,
since the Rumble, I think, yeah, he's been crazy over.
And he has been pretty dominant. I mean, it's a pretty big deal to in the second to last match at SummerSlam to beat Randy Orton. You know, in what was a surprisingly good match. Wasn't amazing, but it was good.
Yeah. We can go back to Rollins and Ambrose, though. They had a great match at SummerSlam, and then I would say maybe even a better match to Raw the next night.
Oh, dude, the
Which is
match to
crazy.
Raw the next night was amazing.
Two nights in a row, just killing it. I was very impressed with those.
Yeah, and the promo that just think about it. I watched the GIF like all day long of Ambrose. Ambrose came up behind Rollins while he was doing a promo and dumped an ice bucket over him, and Rollins just looks at him and he's like, "What? It's for charity." And then he throws the ice bucket in his face.
Yeah.
It was such like Ambrose's character right now is so amazing. It kind of reminds me of like Attitude Era Stone Cold, where he just doesn't care and is just he'll just beat up anybody and just kind of doing whatever he wants to do, and I love that about it. And they have so much chemistry,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
and like I think they still have many good matches left in them, and
Yeah.
with each other, and I think that's going to be an awesome feud.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your favorite like current wrestlers and then all-time wrestlers? Let's just
Well,
I would
geez.
like to hear about them.
I'll go all time first.
Okay,
As a kid, I loved Ricky the Dragon Steamboat,
awesome.
Nice.
and Roddy Piper.
Yeah, that's my favorite. It's my number
Those
one.
yeah, I mean they're both incredible, very different ways.
Yeah.
Geez, I love Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels. Those are kind of pat answers. They're kind of easy.
Yeah.
My favorite wrestler of all time is Chris Jericho.
Nice.
Awesome.
I think
He's right up there for me.
Yeah, he's just like, I mean, his initial run was fantastic, and then when he came back and turned heel, he was like the best heel. He was the
Yeah.
best heel in wrestling. I mean, like hands down, nobody was as good as he
Well,
was.
his dedication to the character is amazing. Like, and that's not something you see a whole lot of these days. Like, he
Yeah.
was like heel through them through. Like, I feel like a lot of heels now, like you can tell that they secretly want to be cheered,
Right.
whereas Jericho just like I'm a heel, I'm gonna be a heel all the time, and it's pretty great.
Yeah, absolutely. She's out of the current crop of guys. I mean, I liked CM Punk a lot, especially his stuff
Yeah.
from 2011 on was pretty incredible. I think Bray Wyatt is fantastic,
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
you.
he's great.
and I love Bo Dallas, and it makes me sad
Yes.
that I thought they set him up really strong. I actually would have. I mean, what do I know about the business? I'm just a fan, but I would have booked him to go over in that battle royal for the Intercontinental title.
I agree. I thought they were gonna do it. I was like, oh my god, they're gonna do it.
Yeah,
And that would have been amazing. But I mean, at least last night he came out and gave a really funny promo to Swagger, and I mean, at least they're keeping him, sending him out there, because I was worried they were just gonna totally bury him,
Yeah.
because his character is so funny, and he's super talented with what he does. I mean,
yeah.
and he's so young. He's only gonna get better. Like both of those guys are pretty young. There's so many like good young guys. I mean, NXT has made a huge difference in that. Like there was a few years ago where you're like, who's gonna come up after Cena, and I don't think they had anybody. I think that's why they kind of did all this, because now they have a whole new crop of wrestlers, and then more coming down the pipe. But yeah, at least that gives me some hope.
Yeah, I mean, if I were again, if I had the keys to the kingdom, I would love to see Bo Dallas team up with Damian Sandow.
Yes.
Try and coach him out of his identity crisis, and then have Bo Dallas turn on Sandow and turn Sandow face. I
That
think
would
that
be
would
great.
be
I like
cool.
that. Yeah.
So yeah, the WWE hires a lot of. Seems like they hire at least one or two comedians at any given time for their writing staff. Have you ever been approached or anything like that?
No, but I remember back in 2001 when I was first out here, I was looking for jobs on Monster.com, and they had a listing for like writer for WWF, and I thought about applying, but I was like, there's no way on earth that they would hire me. But I've never been approached, but I would love to do that. That'd be a dream job for sure.
Yeah. I based on what I've heard so far, I think the WWE would be better for it.
Yeah, why don't they just look, Vince McMahon, this is Hal Lublin. Yes, I'm glad you enjoy Thrilling Adventure Hour. Now let's talk business. Yeah, but you never know. Like, who knows what it's like inside? That's kind of when I talk about wrestling to people who are not fans, like 50% of what I'm interested in is why they book matches the way they book them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm fascinated by all that behind the scenes stuff as much as I am like how they're able to execute and put a quality product out there.
Have you ever heard Jensen Karp talk about his experiences writing for WWE?
No.
There's some really fascinating stuff, some really interesting gimmicks he pitched that they just refused to do that would have been amazing. It sounds like kind of a bummer to write for them, actually, when you hear him talk about it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm sure a ton of stuff gets shot down.
The one I remember is he is pitching a character called Perry Hodder. This was during the height of Harry Potter fame. And the thing with Perry Hodder is he would come out and he would close his eyes and do a spell, and then a bigger wrestler that was a buddy of his or liked him for whatever reason would come out and beat up the other guy and then run away, and then he would open his eyes again and think that his spell worked. would have been great, and they never did it, and it's a shame. Have you seen the new design of the unified belt?
Yes, I
yeah,
have.
that was the big thing from last night. Was the gold belt is gone.
The big gold belt's gone. Much to
at first, I thought it was the same belt when they brought it out. I'm like, wait, and then I looked hard. I'm like, oh, it's the new logo. That's all you guys came up with.
Yeah.
It's a tight belt design. I like that they have one belt.
Yeah,
I definitely needed one belt. The
crowd was booing like crazy when it was unveiled, and then poor Jerry Lawler and JBL being like, "Oh, it looks amazing, right?" Meanwhile, nothing but boo behind them.
I don't know. It's a belt. I think I think it's good that they have one belt. It's a little bittersweet to see the big gold belt go, but it kind of needed to.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm glad that they have committed now to the one belt. I was worried they were gonna like change their minds on that, and somehow we'd end up with two champions again. I'm like, no. I was really worried for a minute.
And I think it helps the mid card a ton too, because now the IC belt. I mean, everything they've done with it, even putting it on Barrett, kind of helped elevate that title. And you know, when I was younger, that was the title I would have wanted to win if I was a wrestler.
Oh yeah,
I love
Intercontinental
the
title
IC
was like the
title.
coolest title, and it was because it was usually like the young guys, um, and like because I remember the first Intercontinental champion that I remember. Well, I guess the first Intercontinental champion I remember is Macho Man,
Mm-hmm.
but then it was like Ultimate Warrior. I mean, there was the whole Honky Tonk Man thing,
Yes.
but which I like looking back at Saturday Night Event. I'm like, I can't believe this got over. This is hilarious. Like he's basically an Elvis impersonator, and he was Intercontinental champion for like a year.
Well, and there was never a clean finish. He would always either disqualify
Yeah,
himself or run away.
Jimmy Hart, the perfect heel manager.
I
Like,
I met him at San Diego. I was walking
Oh,
the
yeah?
floor. He was there. I was walking with my dad. I was like, Dad, hold on a second. I went over to him and I said, I took a picture of him as I was walking up just because I felt like he wouldn't want me to take one otherwise. And I was like, hey, do you mind if I take a picture with you? And he was like, oh, hey, man, let me tell you right now, I would love to do that. But the people who brought me here, here's the deal. You pay $20, and then you get any of those pictures over there, and then you come take a picture with me. I'll let you hold the megaphone, the whole deal. And, like, he went through this whole sales thing. I was like, you know what? I'll come back later. I already got a picture of him. But, I mean, he was nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
But, yeah,
That
he was annoying.
That's like
Back in
that's the nice version of Brenda's encounter with Virgil, which didn't go so well.
Really?
Oh, well, I didn't. This was before Virgil was like a meme, and it was my first Comic-Con, and I was just beyond excited. And this was back in 2005,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just like, oh my! And I'm just like walking the floor, and I had read and it's still in there, but I don't think anybody realizes it or actually uses this rule. But there is an official Comic-Con rule that anybody giving autographs has to sign the souvenir program for free, even if they're charging like $100 for an autograph. They have to sign the program for free, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that that's kind of just put there, and like people don't appreciate it when you go up there and with no money and try to get them to sign the program. So I did it to one person, and I'm like, oh, they weren't very nice. And then I forgot who it was. I think it was like Lou Ferrigno, or it might have been the Boomer guy. It's one of those people that are at all the conventions, like the original Boomer from Battlestar Galactica.
Mm-hmm.
I think it might have been him. And then I walk and I'm like, Virgil, holy shit! And I freaked out because again, I this is my first Comic-Con because I went once in high school, but this was like years later, and at the time the autograph hall was the first thing you saw, so I'm like, this is amazing. And I saw Virgil, and I went up there. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he was just like talking to a girl, not paying any attention. And then I'm like, hey, can you sign this? And he's like, hey, do you want to buy a picture? Or do you want to buy an autograph? And I'm like, well, no, but can you sign this? It says you. He's like, and then he's like, well, he's like, no, you have to pay. I'm like, no, it says here you have to. And he's like, oh, and I asked him another question, and he just turned and started talking to the girl. As soon as he realized I wasn't, like, I didn't have any money, and I almost was like ran away from the convention. But now you see, like, the sad Virgil, and he wasn't even at Comic-Con this year. I was kind of sad. I'm like, oh man, did he give up?
Yeah, there were a lot of wrestlers in that. I signed with Night Vale on Sunday, and the table. I mean, there are curtains that separate the tables.
Mm-hmm.
I looked to our left, which is where the next table was, and I saw this like frazzled hair sticking out, and I realized it was Head because Al Snow was at the next table.
That's awesome. I love that you saw.
Yeah,
that
wasn't he
first.
with like Scott Steiner and?
Yes.
Who else? Ken Anderson was there, but
Oh
Benson, you
yeah.
saw Ken
Yeah,
Anderson.
I encountered Ken Anderson. I I had gone to a speakeasy, and then I was coming back to my hotel room like 1 in the morning, and I see these three guys like screwing around, like mocking the car that was on the crosswalk as they were crossing, and I just kind of was like, oh, ignore, drunk idiots, whatever. And then I kind of hear one of them say, "This is how I'm gonna enter the ring from now on," and I look over and it's Ken Anderson. That was a fun moment. um, so, should we talk about some of the other SummerSlam matches we haven't
Yeah,
covered?
what are your guys' highlights? What were your highlights?
I thought Stephanie was fantastic.
Yeah, I was really surprised that
See, I
how
told
good
you,
she was.
Matt. I told you she was gonna deliver.
I'll admit I had my doubts, but she was really great in the ring.
Yeah, she like I remember that whole McMahon Helmsley era when she had the women's title and then never wrestled. And then
Yeah,
I think
Yeah.
her first big match was either Trish Stratus or Lita. I don't remember which it was, but it was like,
I think
oh,
it was Trish.
there you go. It was Trish, and she was like, you're like, wow, she can actually work.
Yeah,
And she again, like, there's no need for her to do any of that, but it was a great match. The one thing about it that kind of stuck out was it felt like Nikki Bella came out to the ring early
yeah.
because she was
She
just
Yeah.
just
standing
stood
there.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was sitting there. I'm like, I think she missed her cue
yeah.
or
This
something because
standing
she's
is
just
going
not
way
doing
too long.
anything.
yeah.
And then like Triple H, I think, came out to like kind of be like, hey. And then they didn't really do anything with each other. Like, what? This is a little awkward.
Yeah,
But that's the one thing I like this whole angle. But the Bellas are terrible actors. Like, they're terrible.
this is how they get better.
It's true, but I feel like they've been around for long enough. They should be way better than they are.
I feel like Brie is slowly improving.
Yeah, but
Nikki
like
maybe
on
not
the
so much.
mic, their inflection is so weird. Like Stephanie, especially when you have like Stephanie is great on the mic. Like she is really good.
Yeah,
But like Brie and Nikki, I don't know. It's such a huge contrast for me. But I mean, I like what they're doing with this. I hope. I mean, I don't know. I still think the whole Daniel Bryan angle is kind of silly. But I get why they're doing it, just to keep him relevant and fresh for if and hopefully when he comes back.
yeah.
Yeah, I like the Jericho match a lot. I'm hoping he doesn't retire before I can see him live because SummerSlam's not going to be in LA next year.
Yeah.
If he's not at WrestleMania, that might be my last chance.
Well, I mean, I don't know. He's gonna go. I think he's only gonna have like one more pay-per-view, and then he's back on tour
Yeah,
with Fozzy. But and then and that's kind of the great thing about Jericho now is one, you never know when he's gonna come back, and that's kind of been fun. And then when he does come back, he seems to like be so into it, and he seems to only come back when he has something to do. Like
yeah.
this time around, you could tell he was there because he wanted to wrestle Bray Wyatt. And so I don't know. I think he's got a few of those runs left in him.
Yeah,
Yeah, it feels like there are less and less. Like this time around, like their match at Battleground wasn't great. There's a lot of ring. I mean, maybe he had some ring rust or whatever.
yeah.
The SummerSlam match was definitely better. It was nice to see Wyatt go over clean.
Yeah.
They obviously they need to have a rubber match, which Wyatt will win, and it gives him something to do. But it also feels like that character's kind of stuck in neutral because they wanted to keep him heel, and the crowd's like, I mean, he was red hot after his match with Cena. He should have won the rubber match of that one too.
Yeah, I was really that kind of bummed me out because like the Raw after WrestleMania, I was like, oh my god, like Bray's like a top face. He was so over, and then they kind of stalled that, and that's what bothers me sometimes about the WWE. I'm like, just go with what the crowd wants. Like how it's not. rocket science, but when they like, I hate when they try and force things like that. Like, no, this guy's a heel. Like what they did with Cesaro. I'm like, everybody was cheering for him, and then they're like, no, you're gonna boo him. And I don't know. I feel like that's just not the right way. I mean, I guess sometimes, but like if the crowd is like that hot for somebody, like just embrace that and run with it. That's what I would do.
Yeah, and I mean, who's their top face right now outside of Cena? Is it? I mean, Jericho's there in a limited capacity. Roman Reigns
Probably
isn't
Roman
ready yet,
Reigns.
but you
Yeah.
can't put him in a
Yeah.
main event yet. You know.
Yeah, and
Wow.
so I guess I don't know, Dean Ambrose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the real test for him, and maybe it's not a test, will be his first feud post Rollins, because the
Yeah.
two of them have
Yeah.
crazy chemistry. Like, how's he gonna do when he's got to face off against somebody else? Like,
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
excited
Bray
to
Wyatt would
see.
be a good program.
Yeah, there was a kind of taste of that briefly when the Shield was feuding with the Wyatt family a while back, but that never really went anywhere.
Yeah.
Um,
So what was your? Do you have any low points for SummerSlam?
I didn't love the AJ Page match as much as a lot of the reviews it's gotten. I didn't think it was terrible, but it
I
just
thought I was gonna like it more.
yeah,
I don't think they gave him enough time. It felt kind of rushed.
yeah.
I'm looking at the time series. It was the shortest by far on the
Yeah.
card.
But it was good. I mean, it wasn't terrible. Like, there weren't any really bad matches. It was more
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
stuff that wasn't there, like a tag match.
Yeah, I don't understand what they're doing with they. That's. I mean, I'm sure we all have our things that bother us the most, but it just makes no sense to me when they have a good thing and then they just, for what seems like they broke up a bunch of tag teams
Yeah.
and now there's like no tag team division.
Yeah, every
Yeah.
time you start to think they're building the tag team division, they just break everyone
As
up.
soon as you say that, that's when it like
Yeah.
breaks up again, and I don't get it.
Yeah, and the
Yes.
previous two pay-per-views, the Wyatt family and the Usos were like the best match of the like first
Yeah.
of all, Money in the Bank, you're like, oh, that's the best match. And they opened and nobody hit the level that they set. Then they jerked the curtain again at Battleground, and the match is even better. And to have the Usos go over was interesting. Like, oh, where's this gonna lead now? Now
Yeah.
we're face, and the answer is nobody.
Yeah.
And then on Raw they lost to Goldust and Stardust.
Yeah.
But
I love that tag team.
That's a great
they're awesome, but I'm just wondering like what are they gonna do with them and and I don't know. It was disappointing. There was no tag team match. There was no U.S. title match.
Yeah.
You know, like Sheamus wasn't even there, so I don't know what's going on with that. I feel like they don't know what to do with Sheamus right now.
They need to turn him heel, I think.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah.
a while since he was heel.
And I think he needs to drop that title to Rusev.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
amazing. If Rusev was U.S. champion, that would
That would be
probably
great.
be the best thing. Because I'm just thinking like the Lana promos we get from that.
Yeah.
It's crazy how talented she is, considering that like she was just like a model, I guess, like a sort of actress,
Yeah.
model actress, and they brought her in because I remember because Rusev first came out with nobody, and I'm like, all right, I can see this maybe working, and then as soon as they brought in Lana, I'm like, there it is, like that's
found it.
like they got it, and
Yeah.
and then her and Zeb scoring off has been awesome.
For sure.
I hope there's more of that. It's still a little weird to me, as we pointed out last week, how they pretty much didn't have to do anything to turn Swagger face, which is a little disturbing about like just the culture of the wrestling fans.
But also in a weird way, that's kind of why I like wrestling and why I think it stands out as an art form.
Yeah.
That it is, if nothing else, a reflection of the audience and what people want to see when you watch it.
Yeah, because I cannot state how crazy the crowd went. like
Yeah.
during the Swagger Rusev match. Like it was nuts. It was by far one of the loudest matches of the night. And then when Rusev lost, and like people were going crazy. Like when they put that Russian flag up, I was like, oh my, like they're actually doing this. This is happening. That's pretty ballsy.
Yeah.
Because
it is.
but it brings me back to when I was a kid, and I remember when Sergeant Slaughter beat the Ultimate Warrior. Like I remember crying,
Mhm.
and like even going before that, my first wrestling memory when Andre turned on Hulk Hogan, and like how shocking that was, and those kind of things. Like those are what I remember, and so I get it. I get what they're doing, and it's weird that angle seems to be timeless. Like that still works in
Yeah.
2014. Like,
Well, there's always an enemy. They did it with was it Tiger Ali Singh back in like
oh yeah,
2001, 2002? Um, just like there's always, and then I mean before Sergeant Slaughter there was Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik.
yeah. And watching like because that's been the other treat of the network for me is going back and watching Saturday Night's Main Event,
Yeah,
and like those shows are so like I don't know they were doing something right because those shows like even though they were once a month, I immediately knew what was going on. And the way they developed the storylines, I think it's probably because they only had 4 pay-per-views a year they had to build around.
yeah,
Like that must have made it easier to keep feuds drawn out because they could draw out a feud for like super long, but now you have a pay-per-view every month. Like
Yeah.
that's got to be crazy. And so
6 hours a week?
yeah, there's so much more TV. Because like back then they had the weekly shows, but most of those were like jobber matches. And then they had the once a month, if that, Saturday Night's Main Event.
yeah,
And so it let them. It seemed like but those stories they were so on point. Like it was so like I would just watching those I'm right away I'm like okay this guy's a good guy, this guy's a bad guy, oh this brutal attack, and that's and like man where is this kind of like you still see it sometimes, but it's just I think it shows that like sometimes you should just keep it simple. Like this guy doesn't like that guy, and they're gonna fight about it. And we need I feel like I don't know. There's not. I mean, it was also nice on the Nikki to see like a good old fashioned swerve with the Nikki Bella thing. It's been a
Yes.
while since we had one of those.
that's true.
Although those can quickly get annoying. I mean, see Vince Russo.
But they don't do it as often now.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, it's nice when you get that. I mean, I don't even know if it needs to be said at this point, but can we talk about how amazing the Heyman Lesnar promo was on the Raw after?
Oh, dude,
SummerSlam?
I was so excited for that, and it delivered. It
Yeah.
delivered and more. Like, and we're just gonna like I'm excited for when Lesnar goes away, and we're just gonna see Paul Heyman walk out with that belt. Like,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
gonna be awesome.
I think that's what went wrong with Cesaro though, because that was like it was like his whole point. It was almost like he was the manager for Heyman. He
Yeah.
gave Heyman
Yeah.
a reason to come out and be on everybody's mind and mention Brock Lesnar in every single promo. Now he's
Yeah.
got the belt to do that.
Yeah, I was bummed at how they. I mean, I just like. I feel like you really have to try to like the Heyman Curtis Axel pairing and then Cesaro, which I was really excited for, and they kind of blew that too.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, maybe they need another like good heel manager.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I mean, because I don't know, I don't know. I feel like where it's pretty good. Everything's pretty good right now. It just
Yeah.
like you said, like what's next? I think like
Every,
who's gonna be Brock? I don't know.
Yeah, every couple months, Roddy Piper will swear up and down that he's coming back to WWE, and I really hope one of these times it's true and they just bring him in as a heel manager because I think he would be great at that now.
Oh yeah, he would be.
Yeah. And he keeps promising it, so hopefully
What
one
if
day it'll
Bo
come
Dallas just showed up with his dad?
true.
That would be
That'd be
fantastic. But
sweet.
as IRS.
Oh, dude. If IRS, if Bo Dallas is like, here's my new manager, and then IRS came out, that would be amazing.
I can see that. IRS is like he's tired of his hippie son with his Bo Leave ways. He makes him cut his hair and step in line. I can see that.
And then he becomes like a miniature IRS. He gets like a buzz cut,
Yeah.
comes out in like suspenders. That would be amazing.
Cole's
Yeah, that
finished
is
with the
big.
loophole.
Yeah. That would be great.
So Hal, what are some other things that you're liking? Like, do you watch other wrestling besides WWE? Do you watch any of the indie stuff or?
You know, I never have really gotten into a ton of indie stuff, and I've tried recently to watch TNA, and I just couldn't.
Oh, yeah.
Like it took like 10, 15 minutes before I saw any wrestling, and with WWE, I'm a little bit more tolerant of it because I'm more familiar with the product. But
Yeah.
it just goes to show like a problem probably any wrestling show would have is if you don't get to some in-ring action quickly. Like I don't know who. I see two guys arguing. I don't know who the face is, and I don't know who the heel is. So them wrestling each other doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah. Do you know Joey Ryan at all? Al?
No, I don't.
He's an indie guy, from California area.
Okay.
He was on TNA for a while, and that's after he left. That's when I couldn't watch TNA anymore after they fired him. I don't think we plugged him last week, but we're big Joey Ryan fans, so just to get that plug out there again, check him out, people listening.
Him and Candice are defending the titles at the him and Candice LeRae are pro wrestling. Have you heard of Pro Wrestling Guerrilla?
Yes.
So they're the tag team. Him and a lady are tag team champions.
And she's amazing. She does
The best
crazy
women's
things.
wrestler I have ever seen ever.
Wow.
We were at an indie show in Monrovia, and was it Cheerleader Melissa she was going
Yeah.
up against?
Who is another incredible indie wrestler? I mean, women's wrestler.
Yeah. Cheerleader Melissa grabs her by the legs, takes her outside the ring, and this was right next to where we are, and just like swings her back and forth through the chairs. And these aren't like, because we were sitting in them, we could verify. These were not like the flimsy steel chairs you see in wrestling all the time. These
Yeah.
were legitimate steel.
Regular.
And it was
Swinging her through the chairs. It was nuts.
horrible. It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love going to indie shows just because it's cool being able to sit right up front and be able like to touch the ring, and you paid
For
like
$10.
$15, $10, yeah.
And they're in Monrovia. That's where they do their shows.
Well,
That's where QPW, Quintessential Pro Wrestling.
yeah, PWG is in Reseda.
Although
Okay.
QPW has another show coming up, but they're in
It's
Vegas.
in
They're
Vegas,
doing a
the
show-
women's tournament.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, we try to go to indie shows. It's just the problem with indies is that every once in a while they just disappear.
Yeah, they just go away for a while.
Sure, of course.
But now, like they've got but now because of the Black Thursday releases, you got Drew McIntyre and Matt Sydal, Evan Bourne, and those guys on the indie circuit. So I think there's going to be some really good indie matches happening.
Yeah, and if TNA goes under, there'll be plenty more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. I tried to figure out because it's like apparent. So like, it doesn't. It seems like Spike said they're considering not renewing their contract.
Yeah, there's been no deal. There's been no deal made as far as I've seen.
So it could be over in October.
Yeah, I mean, if they can't make any kind of deal, they'll be in trouble.
Yeah,
Probably
'cause-
what happening is they'll make a bad deal for them because they have no leverage.
Yeah, and but without TV, like you can't be without TV, you have nothing.
Yeah, not at the level that they're operating. For
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like you would go out of business really fast. Because I mean Howard. Although it's weird because if you watched, I tried to watch TNA recently and like they didn't promote any of their live shows and like what? How do people even know that like their live shows exist? So I'm wondering what a TNA house show is like.
Well, they seem to have a real the few people that follow them seem pretty loyal, and their shows are they're still always in the Impact Zone, right?
Yeah, and I guess they did so they did like a series of tapings or shows at the Hammerstein Ballroom, but they didn't even do it in the normal room like the ECW and Ring of Honor did it in. They did it in a smaller room so it would make it look like they did it in like the smaller room. I think like they did Raw in there once and it's like tiny.
Well, it's another good business move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they still pre-taping pay-per-views? Are they still trying that?
I don't know what that's to me is the craziest thing when they pre-taped a bunch of pay-per-views and some of them didn't air until like a year later.
Yeah, and people who were in the pay-per-views were no longer with the company by the time they aired.
Wow.
Like that just and then they didn't like there was no because it was pre-taped like none of the matches were just like it was like watching an indie show like okay like there's no story here.
Yeah.
It's just here's a bunch of matches, which at times is good, but most of the time you're just like I don't care about any of these people, and I don't know what are they fighting each other for.
Yeah.
And it's also weird that they brought back the Young Bucks for one of those, and then they only had them wrestle that one show.
They made them change their name again, I believe. Because I don't were they using the same name they had used before?
Oh yeah, it was Generation Me, which
Yeah.
that's also like these guys are famous as the Young Bucks. If you call them this, nobody's gonna know it's them. I mean, I know WWE does that, but that's WWE. Like,
Yeah, they have the juice too.
Exactly.
any other SummerSlam thoughts? I had a lot of fun. I left happier than I did last year. I think overall it was a really good card. I liked it almost as much as I like. I mean, I was also at WrestleMania and I liked it almost as much as WrestleMania. I think it had better matches than WrestleMania overall.
I might agree with that.
Yeah, it was a really great show. It felt like a smaller card, but I think that worked to their advantage because they got a lot more time for each match.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they did. I mean, with the exception to the women's match, like they did the matches were. I think they were yeah. That's what pay-per-views are supposed to be. They're supposed to be longer matches and better quality, and I think I felt like that more so than some of the other pay-per-views.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes some pay-per-views just, especially there was that string after SummerSlam last year, where it just felt like glorified Raws, and like and especially with like where there was like what like 4 screw job finishes in a row, like from starting with SummerSlam, like with the title match. I'm like, no wonder nobody's buying your pay-per-views. Like
that was a crazy time.
Like after a while, people are just. You can do it like once or twice, but if you're consistently like not giving real finishes, people catch on to that.
Right.
All right, so Hal, anything else you want to discuss?
No, I'm good. It was fun. I love talking wrestling. I'll do it anytime.
Awesome.
So it was nice to sort of chat with other like-minded folks.
We're always happy to have you here, and we appreciate you coming on. Anytime you want to talk wrestling, just let us know. We'd be happy to have you on anytime.
Yeah.
We'll do.
And do you have anything you would like to plug, sir?
Sure. When is this going to release?
Probably tomorrow night.
Okay, great. If you're going to be at Dragon Con in Atlanta over Labor Day weekend, I will be there doing various sort of panels and shows and stuff. So you can see me there. I think we still have tickets if you're in the New York area. We'll be there Saturday, October 11th for 2 shows at the Bell House in Brooklyn for Thrilling Adventure Hour. There's still tickets to the second show, so you can go to thrillingadventurehour.com to get your tickets.
Nice.
So I've been to the show twice. I can say it's always amazing. You should definitely do that if you're in the area.
Well, thank you, Matt. And Matt, by the way, interesting story. I don't know if you've discussed this or not, but Matt was at our panel, which was Friday night, and got called out by, I think, Mark Evan Jackson for looking a lot like me.
Yeah.
So he's my official.
I definitely see a resemblance.
So Matt, you may have to pinch hit for me if I'm tired.
Yeah, no problem. And if you get that WWE gig, that'll be good for me too, because presumably I'm in there as well.
We'll be like we'll do Twin Magic. It'll be great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So have you been to Dragon Con before? I always wanted to go.
I never have. And a good friend of mine, Ken Plume, I was supposed to go
I know Ken.
last year.
Yeah.
Oh, you know Ken also?
I used to do a show on Quick Stop Entertainment.
Of course. Everybody knows Ken.
Yeah.
So Ken last year was like, you have to come to Dragon Con, and it just didn't. It was too close. So I promised him I'd make it this year, and I got my ticket, and so I'm doing all of his fun programming stuff.
Oh, nice. That's a huge con. That's like right up there with Comic-Con, but I guess like because it's in Atlanta and it's so hot, they have most of it. It's like it takes up like 3 hotels or something crazy.
Yeah, it's all indoors and connect. I saw James Urbaniak, who will be there as well, and he was talking to me about it. It's like you don't go outside.
Yeah, because it's like 100 degrees and it's like super humid.
Yeah. So I'm nervous about it, but I'm excited.
Yeah, and it's like it's a pretty huge con. It's like, yeah, it's right up there, and I've never been able to go, but because it's so close to Comic-Con that like I'm pretty wiped out like financially wise after Comic-Con.
Sure.
I'll have to figure it out. I've always wanted to go to that. Are you gonna try and go to WrestleMania since it's in Santa Rosa?
Geez, I would love to. I actually should see if I could get tickets somehow. Because I would love to go to a wrestle. I've never been to a live pay-per-view.
I went to my first WrestleMania this year, and it was in New Orleans, and it was amazing. It was the best experience I've ever had.
Oh, it sounds great.
I'm super excited to go again. Like,
I went to the closest I've been to a pay-per-view is I went to Fan Access a couple of years ago outside of Staples Center.
Yeah, we went to that last year, and then they didn't do it this year. I was bummed. They just did like these panels that cost $50 to go to, and you didn't get an autograph. If you want an autograph, it was $100 or $200.
Yeah, times are tough for the WWE. The belt is tightening.
Yeah. I hope they figure that out soon. It's always worrisome, but I mean the wrestling business has survived through worse.
Yeah, it's a cyclical. They just go through cycles like every other business does.
Yeah, and I don't see things. I mean, yeah, like they're so huge that they cut a few things here and there, and then they'll be fine.
I'll bounce back.
They still, I mean, they signed. I mean, they're doing more things to appeal worldwide. They signed Kenta. They're gonna have a huge audience in Japan. They're airing NXT now live in Japan because they signed Kenta.
That's awesome.
This Japanese wrestler. So like they're making headway there.
Yeah. Things are turning up.
So, well, it was great to have you on, Hal, and really appreciate it. And any last words? Anything?
My pleasure, and I hope I hope everybody watches more wrestling. For goodness sakes, let's get out there and talk about it. Let's not be afraid to be wrestling fans in public.
There you go. Totally agree.
There you go.
My Hangouts.
Benson, anything you have going on?
Back now.
You guys still doing Shut Up, Leonard?
Gone. Can you hear me?
Did we lose Benson?
Can you hear me right now?
He was gone, and then he came back.
Okay,
no.
yeah, I might.
We may have lost him. Well, you can check out all of our podcasts on BenviewNetwork.com. Go to mbwspod.com for all of your Matt and Brendo wrestling show needs and to submit your questions. And also check out RadioBrendo.com for Radio Brendo Man. And we recorded a 3-hour episode last week, so check that out.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, yeah. I was saying, can you hear me? And you guys were both talking about me. Well, clearly not hearing me. I feel like
And
a
are
ghost.
any plugs, Benson?
Yeah, go to BenvyNetwork.com. Check out all the shows there. The other ones that I'm on are Popsicles, Benson's Boombox, and Shut Up Leonard, which is about the TV show Community. So check all those out, and you can follow me on Twitter at Dr. Matt Benson. That's Dr. Matt Benson.
Oh, and Hal, what's your Twitter?
You can follow me on Twitter at Hal Lublin, HALLUBLIN.
Awesome. And I'm at Brendoman, and we are at MBWS Podcast. Is
Correct.
that correct?
That is correct.
So, and that'll keep you updated on when we post episodes, and also sometimes Benson tells jokes on there, and they're funny.
Yeah, thank you.
And sometimes tweets wrestlers things.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten a response from a wrestler?
No. The closest, it was not close at all, was I tweeted making fun of there was a Divas match at a pay-per-view a while ago. I forget which pay-per-view it was at, but there was a moment where they all locked arms.
Oh, the
in
Survivor
memories.
Series arm
Yeah.
lock thing?
I tweeted a joke about that, and then a Bella Mark got really mad at me. That's the closest to a response I've ever had.
I got JR to respond to me recently.
Ooh, nice.
Oh, yeah?
I wrote, I don't know, I mean, if you regularly listen, so during the segment, if you're still listening, the parts at the beginning of his podcast where he's talking about stuff, he always, in the middle, he'll be like, I saw the Usos wrestling a Sonic break, and then he starts, you can hear him sip through a straw and shake his cup so you can hear the ice, and then he goes, I love that Diet Peach tea. They're not paying me. I paid 5 of them on Route 44 on the way in here. So, and like every episode, it's just nonstop. And then, so then the most recent one, he just in the middle goes, I don't know why they're not working with me. They're an Oklahoma business. I live right here in Norman. It makes sense. Why don't you have me over to your office and we'll talk about ideas? So I tweeted the new Moby Dick tale is all about JR trying to get Sonic as a podcast sponsor. So he retweeted that with an LOL, and I was giddy like a schoolgirl. Anybody who could show it to, I was go look, good old JR, by God.
Yeah, we met JR at Fan Access last year, and Benson had him sign his old WCW trading card.
Yeah.
He dug it. He was cool. It was really cool.
It was awesome.
I was freaking out. I'm not good meeting wrestlers because I freak out too much. Like I'll just quick story. I met the Hart Foundation at WrestleCon this year. Like I paid and everything, and they're like my favorite wrestlers. And I just kind of was like, Bret Hart, you're so great, and just kind of and like the guy's like, all right, like the line herder guy, I kind of got shoved off by the line herder guy. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Like I got silenced. He's like, all right, that's enough gushing, buddy.
Stop sweating all over Mr. Hart.
Yeah, basically. Well, this has been another episode of Matt and Brendo's Wrestling Show. Thank you for joining us, and I'm Brendan Creasy.
I'm Matt Benson.
Have a good one, everybody. All right. Yeah.
Thanks for doing this.